Jin-Woo stood visibly shocked, a light sheen of sweat forming on his skin from the overwhelming nerves. He stammered, interjecting that he wasn't sure this version of himself was even real. The younger Jin-Woo, his child self, looked up at him with disbelief, saying he couldn't believe that this was who he would grow into. Someone so mature, muscular, and strong-looking. Yet despite listing all of the boy's impressive traits, little Jin-Woo continued declaring it was all just a facade. "You're just a coward," he said bluntly. Then with piercing honesty he asked what truly made them different, insisting that he too was standing once again on the edge of life and death, just as the older Jin-Woo was now. The older Jin-Woo remained silent, listening intently to the voice of his younger self resonating deep within him. Just then the younger Jin-Woo suddenly lunged forward and shoved a monster that had been swooping down toward the older, momentarily relaxed Jin-Woo, causing him to recoil in shock. Little Jin-Woo warned that if the older version of himself didn't learn to control his emotions, his own attitude would ultimately be his downfall. The older Jin-Woo, finding no words in response to the younger one's harsh but truthful advice, simply narrowed his eyes in frustration. His gaze shifted to one of irritation as he glared and snapped at little Jin-Woo, telling him to shut up. In an unexpected moment, a massive hand clad in heavy armor appeared from behind, catching Jin-Woo off guard and forcing him to stagger backward. His expression shifted to one of pure surprise. He hadn't anticipated that he could be vulnerable, not even for a second, especially while distracted by his younger self. But before he could recover, a towering monster in full armor loomed before him, its sheer presence radiating raw power. Only a few seconds passed before the monster launched its first strike, a direct hit that landed squarely against Jin-Woo's body and sent him flying in the opposite direction. The speed and force of the blow stunned him. He had no time to react. As he tried to dodge, the armored beast grabbed him, offering no chance of escape. A moment later, the monster's massive fist drove into Jin-Woo's back, knocking him off balance and slamming him face first into the stone floor. His expression twisted into one of disbelief. He never expected such ferocity from a knight. Up until now, none of the enemies had shown this level of aggression. The heavily armored knight continued to press Jin-Woo's body deeper into the already shattered floor as a crowd of other knights watched in eerie silence, surrounding the scene like an audience to a brutal execution. The smaller version of Jin-Woo stood firm, his voice calm yet piercing, as he told the older Jin-Woo that there was still much he would have to endure if he truly had no intention of giving up. He continued, saying that in order to move forward, he would have to make harder choices, straighten out even more people, and possibly leave some behind in moments of desperation, or worse, sacrifice them. That could include friends, family, people he cared about. His words struck deep, hitting Jin-Woo with the weight of a grim reality. Little Jin-Woo didn't hesitate, warning that by continuing to take everything on alone, the older Jin-Woo was digging his own grave while still alive. At that very moment, one of the towering armored knights raised its weapon, ready to end Jin-Woo. A strange sensation washed over him, one he had felt before but could no longer clearly remember. Just then little Jin-Woo spoke again, his tone final. He said that luck too was a skill, and it seemed that letting Jin-Woo die here would be too great a loss even for luck itself. With those last words, the younger version of Jin-Woo finished his speech, and with a final glance he disappeared, leaving the older Jin-Woo standing alone amid the gathering storm of furious knights. Jin-Woo could no longer move. His body refused to respond, and there was nothing left within him to resist the fate closing in. With brutal force, the knight drove his weapon straight into the ground, aiming to end Jin-Woo once and for all. But in that instant something changed. Jin-Woo's body vanished, transported into the penalty zone. The knight stood frozen, confused. Just a moment ago the boy had been weak, barely alive, defenseless, and ready to fall. Now something had broken loose, spiraled out of control. The colossal knight looked down, realizing that instead of striking down his target, his weapon had only torn into the stone floor, shattering it with sheer power. While Jin-Woo was no longer there, Jin-Woo opened his eyes in fear, as if waking from a nightmare that had nearly ended in catastrophe. His breath came quickly, and for a moment he remained still, uncertain whether what he was experiencing was real. Slowly he pushed himself up, glancing around at his surroundings. It looked like some kind of desert. He let out a long breath, relieved that he could finally take a moment to rest. Still catching his breath, he questioned aloud whether this truly was the penalty area. His mind flashed back to the final moments in the dungeon, the scene of his near-death. Reflecting on it, he realized he had completely forgotten to complete his daily quest. Time must have run out, activating the penalty zone and ironically saving his life. It was such a ridiculous, miraculous coincidence that he couldn't help but marvel at it. Somehow this technicality had pulled him out of the most dangerous situation he'd ever faced. He remembered the intense tension in the throne room, where a timer counted his every second, awarding points the longer he endured. That quest had been so difficult that only pure luck, or perhaps unrelenting determination, had carried him through. He pondered whether it was truly luck or just an absurd coincidence dressed in fate's clothes. Either way, he accepted it for what it was. Now he headed toward the in-game store, thinking back to the notification that his fatigue had surpassed 90 for the first time. He hoped to buy something practical, maybe even some kind of earth-related item to aid his recovery. When he used a potion, however, he was disappointed to find that it didn't restore his health. He would have to wait it out. Even as his thoughts wandered back to the profession change quest, Jin-Woo considered the possibility that training in the penalty area might help him gain experience. He stood up, rubbed the soreness from his neck, and smiled with confidence. He had never felt so strong, so alive. Now he only wondered if the monsters in this place could actually help him level up. Suddenly, Jin-Woo muttered to himself that he didn't need to worry, his voice calm, almost amused, as he noticed a few monsters looming ahead, already eager for battle. Without hesitation, he leapt from where he stood, landing squarely atop the head of one of the massive creatures. In a fluid motion, he drove his dagger down, finishing it off with precision. He kept moving, staying active and sharpening his edge, mentally affirming that if he could survive in this strange and punishing place, he would come out stronger. A notification appeared before him, informing him that in order to return, he would need to endure in the penalty zone for 4 full hours. Jin-Woo lifted his gaze to the side as if something beyond the monsters had briefly caught his attention, even in the midst of combat. Still focused, he pressed forward with a thought burning in his mind. Anything that doesn't kill them only makes them stronger.